Guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And today I am here with Richard Essien, otherwise known as Bones or Magical Bones. This is a man, and I said this on my Facebook page when BGT was on earlier last year. I said that he was my favorite act. And it was so unique and so refreshing to see somebody come out and absolutely kill it and do something different to what everyone else was doing. And I'm a huge fan, absolutely huge fan. Really super glad that you're on the YouTube channel. How you doing, Bones? Are you okay?
I'm very, very good. Thank you, Craig, and thank you for having me. And really appreciate all those kind words. And it's a pleasure to be on this platform.
Well, I'm so glad that you're on here because you are busy, like busy. The world's opening up, the pandemic's, we're on the other side of the pandemic, and you're on cruise ships, and we'll talk about this, and you've just come back from Edinburgh and you're gigging all over the place. So thank you so much for finding the time for jumping on here. I know that you're a busy guy.
Yeah, it's starting to get a bit more busy. It's starting to feel like we're coming back to normal. The new normal is starting to feel like the old normal, which is good. And I think the calendar's starting to pick up for all the magicians, and onwards and upwards. We've got to be positive, so that's all good now.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people might not have known who you were until they saw you on BGT, and obviously it's BGT that have brought you to the forefront. But you've been involved in magic and entertainment for a very long time. And normally when I interview somebody, I say, let's talk about your origin story into magic. But in your case, you started off not so much as a magician, but you started off as a dancer. Is that right? And street dance and that sort of thing. So can we talk about your origin story and how you went from well, first of all, how you got into sort of street dance and b-boy stuff, and then how that transitioned into magic? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, okay, so it's quite a complicated one, but basically my first hobby was magic. So like every other magician, we all got the magic set. I had a Paul Daniels magic set, so my mum gave me a Paul Daniels magic set. She didn't know what she was actually getting me, but she was just like, let's just get him a toy for Christmas and just keep him busy, and it's like, this is good. And I loved it. I loved the wand, the wand where you push it, the end bit, and it gets smaller and it cups and balls. And I played with that a lot. And I brought some of those props into school. My drama teacher at the time was David Weeks. And if you guys know who he is from the Magic Circle, he's like well known in there. He was my drama teacher, and he encouraged a few of us to take magic as a serious hobby. So he introduced us to Bobo's Modern Coin Magic, Expert at the Card Table, Jean Ugard's Expert Card Technique, and we practiced. And I actually became sort of a serious hobbyist as a magician when I was younger.
What age were you at this point?
I was from 12 onwards. I was doing magic as a serious hobby.
Wow.
I had like a few magic friends in school. I used to go to Davenport's, which was in Charing Cross Underground, by the near the I'm talking about underground part of Charing Cross. And it was just sort of like a hobby, but a hobby I was actually into. But it wasn't my profession. My profession and my background, as you mentioned, was dancing and b-boying professionally. So I was doing that at the time. I was doing a lot of hip hop kind of competitions.
So for those people that are watching this that don't know what b-boying is, can you kind of elaborate on that very quickly for everyone?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So b-boying is sort of the official or the proper term for break dancing. It's called break dancing, but sort of hip hop b-boys call it breaking or b-boying. It's actually called breaking now, because you can't actually say b-boying or b-girling anymore. You've got to sort of be non-gender specific. So we say breaking. So I was a breaker. So I used to do that. I used to dance. We used to train at the South Bank by the London Eye. So if you Google street dancers or break dancers by the London Eye, type in Michael Jackson, you'll see me there dancing just on the South Bank, doing street shows. We just kind of did it for a laugh, but then it ended up becoming sort of our profession. We ended up doing a lot of music videos, a lot of commercial work on TV.
So you came out of school and went straight into being a professional breaker. Is that right?
No, it was sort of my side job. So my background was in school. I studied all the way up to university. I studied maths and statistics at Queen Mary University. And instead of getting a job I did have a job actually. I did have not 9 to 5. I did have a part-time job as I worked in Hamleys as a magical demonstrator. So I used to demonstrate tricks in Hamleys and also in Harrods. But that was my only sort of real job. The other job I would do was dance in the street and get work commercially as a dancer. It's when you're a commercial breaker, it's not like you don't have like it's like a gigging magician. There's no sort of like, right, Monday to Friday, I've got my gigs all lined up. It's sort of when people call you for an event or a party or TV show, whatever it is, you sort of do that. So I could do that alongside while I was studying university, and I happened to do it at quite a high level. So
yeah, you were doing videos. You said you were doing like music videos and things as well.
Yeah, I was in number one singing. Number one hit, which is called "Singing in the Rain." So if you Google "Singing in the Rain" by Mint Royal, I'm the guy in the video. Oh, you can see it's me anyway, with the robots. I don't know if you know the song. Yeah, all the robots line up. Yeah, you can watch that video. That went to number one, so that was quite good. I've been fortunate enough to dance behind or dance for Madonna, dance for Alicia Keys. I actually had like quite a high level dance career, and that was like my sort of serious sort of profession.
How did you find time to practice magic, have a job demonstrating magic in Hamleys, be a professional breaker doing all of this amazing stuff, and study in university as well? Like, surely something had to give. Surely the magic got pushed to the side a little bit at one point, or was it always kind of up there?
Magic wasn't, I don't know if, I'm sure like everyone, you go through periods when you're a hobbyist, you go through periods where like, all right, I'm really into like, right, let's get up on, like you learn a matrix, for example, coin matrix, or you're learning, everyone starts off with ambitious card and you just get into it for a while. And then, you might leave that alone for a little bit and you focus on something else. You might be into piano player, whatever you're doing. So it's always been there. I've always had, but I wasn't sort of like 100% only on magic. I've always had other things I'm interested in. I'm quite, diverse. I like things like music. I play chess. I'm always interested in all sorts of things. The dancing was just something I was really, I happened to be quite good at. So I was able to, get good jobs out of it, and that's why it was I'm sort of known as Bones. And, I did a lot of competitions. I won competitions, but it didn't really, it sort of over the years, it sort of all fitted into place. You have to study, or, my family, you have to study, you have to go to university or college. So there's no choice with that. You just kind of have to go to school in it. So anything you can do outside of that is fun.
So you've studied university, you've finished university, you've qualified, you're still doing a lot, you're still a professional dancer and doing magic as a hobby. Was there then a point where you go, well, okay, right, I finished uni, now I'm going to have to get a proper job, right, now I need to put my degree to some use? Or did you go, no, actually, I'm going to continue with this dancing thing? Like, what? Yeah,
that's exactly what it's the second thing you said. I was studying maths, but just sort of like, it wasn't really something I wanted to pursue as a career. Now there's all this stuff about, in maths, it's quite popular now if you're doing scientific research. When I was studying maths, just become an actuary or a teacher, that was it. And it's not, for me as a performer, it wasn't the most exciting profession to go into. Whereas dancing seemed a little bit more exciting. I got a contract with a show called Africa, which you played at the O2. and I toured around with that show, which kind of led me into pursuing magic more seriously, actually. But Africa was a big show that I did at the time. And yeah, I just sort of went on that journey of like trying to become a full-time performer.
While you were doing all this, were you ever doing magic gigs, or was it just magic was a hobby? You are a professional dancer and magic is a hobby, a thing I do for fun, just because I enjoy it? Or were you actually trying to actively go out and get magic gigs as well? Because obviously you were Deming in Hamleys, so, you know.
Yeah, so I kind of did the occasional gig, the occasional gig now and then, but I wouldn't have considered myself a professional magician until I joined Africa when I sort of said, because what I used to do when I was if I'm doing like a TV show, if I'm on set for something or a commercial, I'd be showing people tricks. Like I've always got a pack of cards in me and say, oh, you magician, oh, go and show some magic. I'd do some magic on the set and people would be like, oh, you're quite good at this. You should do something with this. Do you know what I mean? And then I'd do it on the street. When you're doing street shows, you're trying to attract a crowd and you do anything to attract a crowd. You stand as a statue, or, you know, you do a handstand, you know, you do a back palm and a pair of cards. We did anything to attract a crowd before we did our dance show. So I would also show magic tricks to people on the street. And I know all the street magicians who used to do the Covent Garden magicians. I'm good friends with a lot of them. Sergio Barros is one of my close friends, and we'd mess around. So the professional part of it really came. So it was a sort of a natural progression. Like the guy that actually started me on my first ever professional gig is Marco from International Magic. Okay. And I'd always go in there and, you know, buy these little tricks. And he was like, do you want to come to a restaurant and do some stuff? You're good. And he sort of took me under his wing, and I did that, my first close-up gig. And I had all the nerves and afraid to approach tables and go out to groups of people.
You did have the nerves, even though you've been like performing on stage with Madonna, like dancing behind Madonna and on #1. You still kind of, but now you're in a restaurant walking up to 4 people at a table, and even though you've been on stage at such a massively high level, it
helps. The street performance side of it helps, actually. When you dance on the street, you've been on big stages, you have that level, you do have a level of confidence. But it's like anything that's new, like it's a whole new world, learning how to approach. That's an art form within itself. I mean, now it's easy because when you do it, you just know how to do it. But when I first used to do it, I had no idea. When I first did that first gig, and Marco was just like, right, you do those tables over there, you do it, off you go. And you're like, oh, okay. And you know, you sort of stand there like just creeping up to the group because you're not used to it. And then once you get into it and you do your first group and you're like, hey, you guys, I'm gonna just go show you a couple of bits and blah, blah, blah. And it's fine. But it's that first initial thing. I even get that sometimes when even after I've been doing magic for 15 years, but I still get that sometimes when when you haven't done a gig for a while and you're like, oh, I've got to go to the group, you still get a little bit of nerves, not nerves, but just like, all right, let's go to this group, this big table, or whoever, let's psych it up. So it does help having a performance background, but it's still a new kind of arena to get used to.
I totally get you. So you went out and you did a close-up job with Marco, and that went well, and I assume it went well. Did you then kind of come out of that thinking, right, okay, actually, I want to do more of that? Or were you conflicted? Was it kind of like, well, I've got this career as a dancer, this is doing really well, I'm really well known, I'm performing at a very high level, will this kind of distract me away from my main thing?
I didn't really know, when I started, I didn't really know I was going with the dancing. I didn't have sort of like a vision board in terms of the dance career, because there wasn't that much when I was dancing, when I was professionally dancing, there wasn't that much time as a b-boy to, there wasn't many opportunities. You could do competitions, you could do music videos, you could dance behind artists, you could dance for artists. But other than that, there wasn't that sort of ladder of progression that you could really say, all right, in 10 years time, I'm going to be. Whereas I felt like with dancing, with magic, you can build a business, you can earn really, really good money. And there is a progression, career-wise. And I started to sort of prefer magic over dancing. You earn a lot more money as a magician than you do as a commercial dancer. You work a lot harder, but magicians tend to earn, we do very well. Because you just walk around with a pack of cards, and it's not the same as all the years of training. I mean, you do years of training with magic as well, but I mean, like, it's a different sort of kind of type of training and different sort of opportunities. I think magic has way more opportunities in terms of building a business than it is with dancing. You can teach dancing, but I wasn't inspired to teach dancing. I always liked to perform.
So did it get to a point where you started doing more and more magic and less breaking, and then you got to a point where you're like, okay, we're going to stop that now, and I'm just going to focus full time on magic?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it got to that point where I was like, I joined a show called Africa, and I also danced a lot on the streets. And what I like about the streets and I like about the circus is that the performers have a different level of freedom, and they don't box themselves. So on the streets or in the circus, people don't box themselves. Oh, I'm just a close-up guy and I just do cards, or I just do coins, or magic should only be done this way, or dancing should only be done this. People are like, yeah, why can't there be a breakdancing magician? Why not? Why can't there be someone who juggles and sings at the same time? People try all sorts of stuff on the street. And that sort of being in Africa, that show, it was a circus show, it inspired me, because you meet all sorts of people who have such weird acts. And you're like, oh, I'd never think that was an act. But, and they encouraged me to say, why don't you do something with your magic and your dancing? Because you're good at that and you're good at this. Why don't you try and play around with some ideas? And I saved a little bit of money up from the streets, and I actually just out on a whim just booked Wandsworth Theatre. It doesn't exist anymore, but booked Wandsworth Theatre, and just made a stage show. Just did it. Just booked a theatre and sold tickets, and just I kind of had this idea of trying to do something with magic and dance for a few years. It was just sort of marinating. And it was just one day I was just like, do you know what? You just keep thinking of this idea you want to do, just do it. So I just literally just booked a theatre, Wandsworth Theatre. It was £400 for the whole day. And and I made a flyer, made a show, obviously. The show was terrible.
I was going to say, because obviously up until that point, you were just doing close-up magic. And I know you've got experience as a stage dancer or breaker, but there's a world of difference between doing close-up magic and doing magic on stage. So to immediately just go, right, I'm going to go from here to here, that's a huge leap, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of jumped, I've sort of like brushed past a few things. I obviously did research. I did sort of read books about transitioning from close-up to stage material, what works, what packs small, plays big on stage. I was trying to find myself as a performer as well, like what is it about me and who am I, what's my identity and my character on stage? And that sort of helped me write down the show and what ideas I wanted to do. So one of the first ideas, I had three or four ideas I had. 2011 when I did the show, by the way. But I had three ideas. First one was the backflip, catch the card. That was one of my first ideas. Breakdance out of a straitjacket. That was the second idea. And then I had the floating card and body popping around a floating card. And what was the other one? Those are the three main ideas I had. I used to watch a movie called, I don't know if you know, have you heard of Breakdance, the movie? Breaking.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, there's a character called Turbo, and he's got, and he's sort of the breakdance, and he does this. This is a famous scene amongst dancers with a broom, and the broom is sort of floating, and he's body popping around with the broom as it's floating, and it's magic, really. And I was always thought that was the first time I'd ever seen anyone kind of fuse magic and breaking in such a cool way. And also Michael Jackson, you know, with the lean and his kind of ideas. So I just wanted to sort of create something like that. But it ended up not being like that. It ended up being sort of like a magic show with some dancing and some more magic. And it was good fun, you know. We sold out, which was great. But I feel like now it was terrible because like I had no like theatre experience at all. I didn't know about lighting, you know, staging, nothing, the microphone, all these different things you learn when you start doing theatre. I just knew I had the confidence from the streets because we do street shows. So we can attract a crowd. We know how to talk to big crowds and perform. So I had that under my wing.
There's a big lesson that magicians can learn that are watching this. There's a big lesson to learn from that, which is you can either get off your ass and do something, or you can sit there and just wonder if success is never going to come and find you if you're just sitting in your living room waiting for the phone to ring. What you did there is you were like, right, okay, I've got the skills. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put myself out there, and it sounds like it worked. It was a sellout show. I mean, that's.
Yeah, it got me. One thing I did do fortunately, because of my my relationship in commercial world in the industry, I was able to speak to. I did an MTV commercial called MTV Push. I spoke to the director, and I asked him to make a trailer for my stage show. And he made this like CGI, high-end commercial kind of, the video, if you watch it on YouTube, it's got me standing on a building, there's smoke coming from my shoes, cards are all CGI. It's like, it looks amazing. That video I spent, that sort of branding got me introduced to some TV producers. Because at the time, people were like, who's this guy? What is that? Like, it looks like some Netflix special or something. Like, it was just too high end for the show I was doing, which is just like, it was nothing like that. But producers came down and they took me on a journey, actually. I ended up going into sort of getting introduced to a lot of influential people, and that also helped my career as well.
So at that point, you know, you've kind of put on this show. You're still doing dancing, but obviously the focus is on magic. What happened then? You say you've spoken to influential people. Were you focusing on stage magic? Did you go back to doing close-up magic? Were you doing street shows? How did you kind of make a living? What was your?
It was a combination of all of those. So I started as a street dancer, started doing a couple of close-up gigs on the side as well. And then that sort of naturally evolved into doing more close-up stuff, less of dancing, to the point where I was like, all right, now I'm a magician, and yeah, call me if there's any good dance gigs, if there's anything worthwhile doing. But actually, I'm just a magician now. And also, I'd like to put on stage shows, you know, use the dance in this way, build towards that. And so it was sort of this natural transition that happened, and it all sort of happened over, it's been, you know, like I said, it's been like 15 years, so it's all happened naturally, evolved. But there was a long point where I was just a close-up guy, you know. Most of my experience in magic is close-up, you know. I'm a close-up magician, you know. I get booked for, I still do close-up magic, actually. I still do quite a bit of close-up magic now and again, because when you're a full-time performer, you've got to kind of do everything, you know. Everyone wants to have the TV special and just do stage shows, and you know, and you get invited for the corporates, like the big corporates, and you do your little 20 minutes around tables, whatever it is. But you know, when you're coming up, you kind of got to work hard and just, you know, if someone's got a close-up, I'll still take it. If someone's got a stage thing, 15 minutes to stay, I'll take it. You just sort of, you just do what you can, innit? So.
Well, before we go any further, let me ask you a question, because one thing that I've got from speaking to you so far is you've mentioned several times about character and having the right character. And you can see that when you watch you perform, you're very aware of who you are and what your character is and what you want the audience to see you as. Have you got any advice on characterization? And it's this thing that a lot of magicians struggle with, making their own character. You know as well as me, there's so many magicians that look exactly the same, that dress in the same suits, that go out and do exactly the same trick selections, and you wouldn't be able to tell one from the other, whilst you are very unique.
Yeah, you know what? I think learning as a performer and from the streets and stuff is that one thing is that people buy you, and the best character you can be is an extension of yourself, because we're all funny everyone has a sense of humor, and it's just about how do you bring out who you are and tell people about yourselves in your performance. So for a long time we have our idols, we have magic, like David Blaine. Everyone wants to be David Blaine. Watch, we all do that. We all start off like that because we don't know anything else at the time. But then I think if you look at when I write routines for stage, or even when I do close-up magic, I like to tell people just about me, and who I am, what I am. And so I think I look for the character within myself. Even if I'm writing lines, like comedic lines on stage, I feel like a lot of people write lines, stage lines, and they just do them how they saw them done. Whereas I'll do a line, I'll look at a line, for example, and I'll say, well, how would I say that? Like, what's funny, but how does Bones say that? And what do I have as a story to tell as just a performer? What's my voice? What do I like? Because everyone's unique, isn't it? We all have something's interesting about all of us. So tell me your story. And that's how I look at character. I'm like, okay, like in my head, I vision myself as like, all right. I'm an illusionist now, but before, when I was just a stage magician, I kind of saw myself as like pack small, play big, kind of like the stand-up version of a comic who, a comic just comes there with a mic. And, this David Blaine would just come to stage with just a mic and a pack of cards, and yet is able to do all this kind of stuff like that happens. Can I borrow your watch? Do you know what I mean? And that's the kind of vision I initially saw myself as. It's like, yeah, I'm just kind of a guy who just rocks up, got a pack of cards, some props, but not this kind of illusionist, which is what I've turned out to be an illusionist now, which is quite hilarious. But I never actually saw myself as that.
And I do want to talk about that in 1 second. Before we move off from the dance side of things, I have to ask the question: how did you get the name Bones?
So Bones is a nickname as a b-boy. Every b-boy or b-girl has sort of like a name. You can't just be like, it doesn't really sound as cool when you say Richard. Mm-hmm. It's not like, ooh, Richard. So I was kind of, I used to pop, and I hit hard, and people say I hit hard to the bone. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of a name that stuck, and I was quite slim, so it just fitted, like Bones.
Got Bones.
It. Yeah.
And then the magical thing happened when you obviously started doing magic. You just added magical to the beginning of it.
Yeah. It was sort of like, okay, let people know there's this distinction now. I'm not just Bones, I'm Magical Bones, the magician.
Nice. Yeah. So we're now at a point in your career where you're doing incredibly well. Everything's going really well. You're now a full-time magician. You're doing stage shows, you're doing close-up magic. You're not doing illusion shows, but you're doing stage shows and you're doing close-up, and everything's fine and it's all good, and you're dancing, and then you decide to enter Britain's Got Talent. Is that when you decided, right? So I've got several questions about this. And the first question is, did you decide you wanted to become an illusionist before Britain's Got Talent? Or is that something that happened throughout the course of the program that you've just kind of embraced at this point? And also, why did you want to go on Britain's Got Talent? Because you've achieved a level of success. Since Russ Stevens has got involved, there's less risk than there was back in the day when they used to just like completely brace every single magician that went on there. That's not the case anymore. And we have Russ Stevens to thank for that. But there's still an element. It's live TV, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I had the fortunate, so just to give people a little bit about more of my magic career. So I ended up putting on quite a few stage shows, and I got picked up by my former manager who's passed away, Anthony Owen, and he took me into one of the first magic shows that came out back into the West End after 100 years, which was Impossible. So I was in Impossible for 3 years with Ben Hart, with Chris Cox, with Jamie Allen, Richard Jones, who won and things. So we did the show. I was one of the 6 magicians, and I was the street magician there. I did do an illusion actually there. I used to close the show where I levitate at the end. So I did a little bit, but my whole thing was like, oh, I'm the street guy and I'm doing street magic. But my style was pack small, play big. So I like to take an effect and how do I make a card trick play big on stage? How do I make that picture? You know, springing the cards and doing a backflip. That takes a little pack of cards and just makes a bigger picture than if I just put it underneath the camera. And the same thing applies with when I do the Rubik's Cube and I do windmills. It's like, yeah, people do Rubik's Cube magic and it's amazing, but how do you make that picture look bigger? So I was always doing sort of big stuff, but illusions was, I couldn't really find how I fitted into box illusions. Like, I just didn't know how, at the time, I didn't know how I could make it work with dancing and just sort of wheeling in another box. It just didn't really resonate just yet for me. But, you know, I did have illusions. Before I had bigger illusions, I had smaller illusions, like Vanishing Stereo is one of my illusions I do in the show. Obviously, because it fits in with the dance. So I do Vanishing Stereo. I had a floating table. I don't do that anymore. So I had the medium-sized illusions, you know, the small ones. And then I went to Edinburgh Fringe 2019.
So this is after Impossible. Impossible is finished now.
Yeah, so we did Impossible for about 3 years, and then obviously we're still waiting for where we're going next, and we were waiting for like 3 years. So Impossible doesn't look like we're coming back anytime soon.
But it must have been a great experience when you did it.
It was amazing. You know, we did the West End, which was fantastic. We toured around the UK. We toured around the world. And yeah, it was incredible. I also did some TV stuff. I did a show called Around the World in 80 Tricks, where we got to tour around the world as well, and you know, do magic for channel called Insight, and it was also on Sky. And yeah, then I decided I was being managed by Anthony Owen at the time, and I said, you know what, I want to try Edinburgh Fringe, like a run, because I've always done stage shows, but I've always done I'll do 2 dates at the Underbelly, or You Catch Me at Wandsworth Theatre, or just these individual dates. I've never really done a tour or a run.
Yeah.
So I went to Edinburgh Fringe in 2019, and it was amazing. I had a sellout run, the entire run. I sold it out. I learned so much from doing 30 days at the Fringe. I recommend that for everybody to just do it. Just, you know, it's not cheap, but you'll learn so much of just regular gigging and doing an hour's show. And the producer, and also this is how I got to do BGT. So producers from all over the world come to see the Fringe. So you've got TV producers, you've got cruise line bookers, you've got the corporate, private bookers. Everyone comes to the Fringe. And I got seen by BGT, I got seen by BBC. So I did a show called Crackerjack from Edinburgh Fringe, did BGT because of Edinburgh Fringe, doing some cruise work because of Edinburgh Fringe. So much has come out from the Fringe. And then obviously BGT is probably one that everybody's seen, but so much has come out just from that run I did at the Fringe. So that was really what kind of how they approached me at BGT and said, oh, would you like to do it? And I said, yeah, it's great exposure.
Wasn't there a risk involved in it though? Because I mean, you've been part of the headlining sort of ensemble of Impossible. You've performed at a huge level. You've got a manager, well, obviously no longer with us, and you've done all this stuff. You've done Edinburgh Fringe for 30 days. Wasn't there a period of time where you thought, well, do I really want to do BGT? What happens if something goes wrong? You know, is it? Do you know what I'm trying to say, or was it? Just
yeah, they asked me before. They asked me before. They always, I mean, they always. I'm sure they've asked you. They always come and ask you, "Do you want to do BGT? Do you want to do BGT?" And at the time, you know, it wasn't a good look for magicians to do BGT. But I think as more magicians started doing it, and the audience, the UK audience, love magic. It's one of, you know, there's always going to be a magician in the final. So far, there's always been a magician. In fact, we've had a magician, like, other than the year I did it, we had a magician in the top 3 for like 4 years running. You know, it's so popular. People love magic, and I feel like as performers, as individuals, why look at the negative side of things? You know, why not just look at the upside? Because the upside is, you know, you're going to the moon. You know, we can sit here and think about, you know, oh, well, what if I did it? Oh, it's gonna. But it's like, just do it. I tell everyone, honestly, all the young magicians out there, I speak to a lot of young magicians, I say, yeah, I'm not doing a BGT because now, man, I'm not trying to. It's like, why not? Like, how, like that, if you get the exposure, your career goes here. Do you know what I mean? So I always look at the upside. I'm like, it's like when I did my first stage show, it's like, why not? Just do it. Go out and just do it, and like, and believe in yourself. Bet on yourself, you know? I like to bet on myself. So I was, you know, and also because I had the experience, I knew the routines. I do, you know, people know my routine. If you see me, you've seen me do crunchy. You've seen me do, you saw my backflip routine. Some of the Henry Box Brown stuff you saw on BGT. So I did have routines that I knew were solid. Do you know what I mean? That would land anyway. So no one's going to say, oh, he's not good. So if you have all those things, there's only an upside. You know, you're only going to get exposure. If it doesn't go well, nowadays, you know, they want to make great television. So if you do BGT and it doesn't go well, most likely they won't show it. So what you got to worry about? They're not going to, they want to make, it's just a variety show, and they want to put on good variety. There's always going to be the odd act that looks a bit silly. When you're making a television program, it's just having it's sort of structured in a way where there's going to be 90% of it is good TV. So you're going to have everyone's yes. And then there's going to be, you know, a silly thing, some silly guy singing some song in a dog's costume or something like that. But majority of the acts they put on there are all good acts. If you get through, you're not going to be shown to look like an idiot on telly. That was what they used to do when the writers used to do it in the old days. But now it's, if you look across all the platforms, AGT, BGT, Penn and Teller, Fool Us, it's all just great magic or great performances with the 1 or 2 silly little things that we hopefully will never be in that case. Unless if something goes absolutely wrong and you fall over and you've exposed something horribly wrong and it makes great television, then they probably will show it. But I have magician friends who've been on there who, you know, they did all right, but they never got shown. Some of them, you know, flashed or whatever, and they just don't show it because it doesn't make good TV.
Well, did you have your whole thing planned out? Did you? Because one thing I'm getting from you, Bones, is you are a very optimistic person. You've got this whole just go and do it, which is amazing attitude. I love to see. Did you have the whole thing planned out? Right, this is what I'm going to do in the audition. This is what I'm going to do in the semis. This is what I'm going to do in the final. Or did you just focus on the audition and go, well, I'll cross that bridge?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, if you speak, it depends. My advice to anyone that's doing BGT is have 3 acts ready to go. That's the way to do really, really well. I had 2 acts. I had the audition and the semi ready to go. The final, you know, is, I mean, if you've experienced BGT final, there's a lot of changes and chopping and changing, and you know, it gets a bit tricky in a sense of like decisions are made literally at the last minute, and I didn't really have a final decision, a final strong idea for the 3rd piece because it's all rushed. in my opinion. I mean, it's great, but you know, it is tough when you get to the final. The most important thing is the audition. No one really cares about the final. If you win it, you win it. But you really want to land that audition and get on TV, because that audition changes. That's what everyone watches, you know. That's the part they edit the most. So if it's, you know, if you do the audition, that's the part they really spend time making it look good, and you know, putting all the score and music in and building the story. That's where you will do really, really well. That's you focus on the audition and semis as well. But if you have 3 acts, you probably will go really far.
And back to the original question about illusions, was it during this period of time with BGT that you started thinking of putting bigger stuff in the act, or was it beforehand, or was it after doing BGT? Because obviously,
well, to be an illusionist, as you know, and you're an illusionist as well, so you know it's not cheap.
Absolute pain in the arse.
you're wheeling around big toys, so it's sort of like it's not the same ball game as being a close-up magician or being a stage magician. And you might regret becoming an illusionist after a while, because like, you know what, it is actually a lot of big toys to play around with. But no, what it was more about was the storytelling. I do a piece in Edinburgh Fringe, which is the cardboard box with the sticks. That's how I close in Edinburgh Fringe, and it's the Henry Box Brown piece. And BGT liked that. Russ loved it, but what they said is, could we make it more, you know, more amazing? And that's when the Excalibur came in. I did that piece. So the original idea was just me in a box. I get stabbed. I do this. So right now I close with the box and the wooden dowels. And in that piece, I talk about Henry Box Brown, how I have a genuine fear of small spaces. I don't like being confined, and I'm framing it to the audience like I'm going to do an escape in a cardboard box, and I base it being inspired by Henry Box Brown and how he was able to stay in a wooden crate for 27 hours. So the audience thinks it's just an escape, and I'm afraid, I'm claustrophobic, I don't like being in small spaces, I'm chained up in this. And then my assistant comes and starts making that space even smaller by putting wooden dowels in there all over the box. And then she pulls it out, I've escaped, and I've done a costume change into the Henry Box outfit you saw. So that was the illusion that was the only illusion I had, sort of big scale, grand illusion I had. And then after BGT, obviously I did this Excalibur, and then I did backstage with the magician in this round 2, and then I had a bespoke illusion done. So I was doing more illusions than sort of stage magic. So I sort of said, oh, well, do you know what? I'm an illusionist now. So let's just take that on. But it's not easy. It's a lot. The toys are bigger to carry, and setups all a lot longer than it is just coming there with your little pad. And
it can be more difficult to make an illusion your own, because there's only so many ways you can put someone in a box and make them disappear and bring them back. You have to seriously think about the presentational side of things in order to try and stand out as an illusionist, else you end up just looking like everyone else. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, 100%. You've got to, I think the starting point for any routine is the story, what you're saying. So the show I took to Edinburgh was called Black Magic. And the reason why, so Black Magic is a play of, and I say this is the reason why this show is called Black Magic is it's quite simply because, you know, I'm black. And that's one of the first lines I say in the show. But then I go on to tell people about, you know, one of the stories I think that hasn't been explored in magic is Black magicians. You know, we don't really, in magic, there's a lot of stories that have been told. You know, we've heard of Harry Houdini, we've heard of the magician pulling the rabbit out of the hat, but there's stories that I think we can explore that I would like to hear. I want to hear about the magician from Peckham. I want to hear about the female magician a lot more. So I want to tell stories which relate to me, and that's the basis of how I can then use an illusion, because you know, it just naturally fits with what I'm saying in the story. So obviously I talk about the wooden crate, I get in a cardboard box. When I'm talking about backstage, I'm talking about Henry Box Brown as a performer. So then I can do backstage behind, backstage with a magician. You know, I do Adrian Solar's Teacup. I love that illusion. I talk about Thriller. I do it to Thriller, Michael Jackson's. But it's just more about the storytelling. I think that can help you with the making an illusion not feel like you're just winning a box and just like, right, here's my cube zag and just whatever. It's just, it's about what you're trying to sell. And music and dance work really well for me, so I can sell illusions.
That's perfect. That's brilliant. Before we go off that, I just want to ask you one more question. Do you have any advice for somebody who is doing close-up at the moment that wants to transition into stage? Because it is kind of that ultimate thing, isn't it? So many magicians do specifically close-up magic and they want to be a stage magician, but they don't know how to do it. They don't know about the trick selection. The thought of performing on stage scares the hell out of them because there's a massive difference between walking on stage and approaching a group of 6 people at a wedding. As somebody who's actually done that and now predominantly performs on stage, have you got any advice?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is make your close-up magic, like when you're doing your encore piece, try and make it bigger. So for example, you might do, let's say you're doing a card to impossible location and you've gathered everyone around the table and you say, listen, I'm gonna show you guys something amazing. Can you sign your name on this card or whatever? And you make the card, even if it's carding wallet, and you load the card in the wallet, try and make that piece feel bigger. Put the wallet on another side of the room, make the ring that's gonna appear in the box on the other side of the room. Then it naturally feels bigger. So watch this, guys, it's gone. You see on the other side of the room, just there, and everyone turns around. It naturally now feels like a bigger piece. I actually do a new trick, which is in the show, which I'm so excited to do. I'll be doing this in my stage shows, where I make a driving license, I vanish and reappear inside a fridge, which is a small little fridge freezer, which is inside the middle of the audience, inside an Oasis bottle. And essentially it's a stage piece. It's a big piece because we've taken that piece and put it in the audience. We've taken, sorry, the appearance, instead of just having it appear on stage, it now feels bigger because when you say to everyone, say, you see in the auditorium, I don't know if you guys have noticed that fridge, it's just been sitting by the door just here, and everyone turns down, they put the light on that, you know, it now feels big. And you can do the same thing as a close-up magician, because you can do, there's a trick that is really, really good, and a good starting point is a card to impossible location. You can get someone to sign a card, whether it's a 10 of clubs or king of clubs, and you know, you have a duplicate stuck, and all you do is just get like a king of clubs or a 10 of clubs and just write someone's name, nice and big, all over the right, and you stick it on the end of, in the other side of the auditorium, or stick it in the wall of the restaurant. Force a card, get some, and bring someone up. So even if you're doing close up, get someone to stand, you know, at the edge of the table, and now it sort of feels like a stage piece. So they're standing, and you say, listen, write your name on here, nice and big, so everyone can see. And then you do your top change, whatever it is, you vanish their card, and say, look, there, on the wall, just there, and you go and you grab it, and you know, show it top change and show everyone. And now you've already got your first stage piece. Do you know what I mean? You've just made something that's small play bigger. And I think there's a lot of close-up magic that can actually play big if we just rethink how we do it. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I would suggest. Just try and, when you're at a gig, try and think about making your close-up, actually write down your actual script, your encore pieces. So like, you know, when we work as close-up magicians, we're so used to this, like, you got your scripts for your little, you know, your coins across and your extreme burn, but big pieces need to be scripted to make them feel big. You got to make someone feel like you're doing something big, even if it's just a card in the other side of the room, or you know, Crunchy, which is one of my favorite rooms, and that's in the Lemon, Bill and Lemon, for example, and it's in you've got to make it feel big. So script it big, write it big, and make it feel like, all right, guys, you all sit around here. I'm going to show you something really special right now. Has anyone got a note I can borrow? And everyone's like, oh, this is, it just feels bigger, and you just play it up more, you know?
That's great. And on the subject of that, would you say, because obviously you said earlier on you would recommend BGT to everybody. If somebody's just a close-up magician, I don't want to say that derogatory, just a close-up magician, but if somebody only performs close-up, but they want to go on BGT, would you think that they need to have bigger stuff, or do you think that they can get away with it just going on the stage, just going on the show? Because you see people doing it, don't you? They go on the show and they go, can I come down to the thing? And they do the stuff close up. But one thing you hear all the judges say is, you need to go bigger, you need to go bigger. Do you think that somebody can achieve success in BGT if they only do close up? Or do you think they need to work on having a bigger act first?
I mean, naturally, if you're going to do a stage piece, then, you know, you have to think about how your material can play bigger, even if it's just smaller, but it's just framing yourself bigger and making it play bigger. So I think you can, because if you look at who's won in AGT, who was it? It was Shin Lim won, and I wouldn't really consider him as, I mean, he's a card table guy, right? So Shin Lim won. What's that other guy? Mark, the first guy that won AGT. I've forgotten his name. Mark.
Oh, I've forgotten.
Yeah,
I know.
He's 100% a close-up magician. Richard Jones is a close-up magician, more or less. Richard does stage stuff as well, but he's a great close-up magician as well. But he made it pack small, play big for a long time. What's his name? Jamie Raven was a close-up magician. So all they did was just frame it differently. So they made stuff that they do in close-up just play bigger. So you're probably not going to get far if you just go in and do an ambitious card routine. Do you know what I mean? If you go in and do an ambitious card routine and your coins across, you probably won't get far. So you can do some, you know, amazing routines, but I feel like you do have to have a sense of like, okay, how can I make this play bigger? Even if it's just making something appear in the other side of the room or in the theatre or behind Simon Cowell's back. It can be as simple as that. But, you know, you can still do all your close-up slides, but you can say, right, instead of me having the ring box on the table, why don't I have the ring box here? And I do the same slide and I bring it over here, and it just feels a bit bigger. So I think close-up magicians can win it, and they have. But at some stage, you just got to think about, you are playing a stage. So maybe making it feel bigger is also something you should consider.
And one more question about going on stage, which is, how do you cope with nerves? You've talked about how you were nervous doing your first close-up gig. You know, going and doing a stage show is a million times more nerve-wracking. And as somebody who's, you know, had a lot of experience performing on stage, even before you did stage shows, with all the street work you did and everything, do you have any advice? I mean, do you still get nervous now?
Yeah, nerves are good. Nerves are good. You know, when you're not nervous, be worried. When you're a bit too like, oh yeah, it's fine. Do you know, every time I've done badly, I've had an off night on stage. It's always when I'm a bit too cocky, a bit too relaxed, and like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I've got it. I've got this in the bag. When I'm a little bit like, I have that little butterflies, that's when it makes you more focused. You don't want to be too nervous, which then that overshadows you, and it's just like, then you're not ready to be on stage just yet. You need to practice. And the thing that gets rid of nerves is just going over a routine again and again and again and again. What I love about Russ and why he's such a great director is that Russ is the kind of person who will, like, you know, I'm a dancer, I've performed on stage, I've done stage shows myself. Russ is like, yeah, go again, yep, rehearse again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Just keep drilling it 1,000 times, 1,000 times, till you just get bored. You know it so well, it's like, oh, like, you don't even have to think about it. And that helps you, that will give you confidence. If you know your routine inside out and you've rehearsed it to the point where like you now start to hate it, and you rehearse it to that point, then that will help some of your nerves. And that's probably the best advice I think I could give someone, is that like just keep drilling and drilling and drilling. Memorize that script. Don't half know your script. Like, even if you're going to the Fringe, I disagree with a lot of Fringe performers. I don't believe like going to the Fringe, you should go there without knowing your act. Some people, and I'm different. Some people are like, oh no, I just go there and I'm gonna get, by the end of Fringe, I'll have an act. So they just sort of go there and don't know what they're doing on stage and faff around. If that's what you're going there for, cool. But if you're trying to go there to take your career to the next level and you want to get yourself some exposure, I think you need to write your show, and you need to drill your show to the point where you know your show off. You can literally just top to bottom know your show off by heart. And then you're going to get good reviews, you get all the exposure you need. And then you don't have as much nerves. You know it. Even if you think you've done something wrong, or I messed up this thing, no one will know, because your script is really just, it's on point. You just know your script off by heart. You've done it a gazillion times. Everyone's heard it. Other people know your script. That's when you know you really know your script. When everyone says, yeah, they start like saying the same script you're saying at the same time. That's when you know that you've nailed it. And that will definitely get rid of any sort of stage nerves that are going to overwhelm you. And yeah, when you jump on stage, you'll be surprised actually, like you can't see anyone. The lights are all in your face. So it's not like close-up magic. You can't see anything. So it's like another rehearsal. So you'll be surprised, like when you go up on stage, it's not as nerve-wracking when you get into it. It's probably less.
Yeah, that's great advice. That is fantastic advice. It really is. Let me ask you, when you did it, obviously you did remarkably well on BGT. You went all the way through to the final. Was it frustrating that when you did BGT, I mean, obviously one of the reasons you did it is for exposure, going on TV, whatever it may be. And you did it, you know, obviously the final was taking place right in the middle of a global pandemic, and you did incredibly well. Everybody around the whole of the UK is watching you. Everyone's like, oh, Magical Bones is there. Your name was everywhere. And then the show finishes, you've done incredibly well, and you can't perform. You're stuck in your house. You're you know, all the opportunities. You know, I've interviewed Mark Spellman on this YouTube channel, and he said, oh, after I did BGT, the phone was ringing off the hook every single day, and you know, it catapulted my career. And I know it's helped you achieve a lot of success as well. But it was frustrating that you were kind of basically locked down after this incredible exposure.
Yeah, that was one perspective. I mean, I had a few friends, magician friends, who were like, "Oh, you said that to me," and I think we were all going through that because no one was performing, but it kind of was sort of kind of a blessing and wasn't a blessing, because I got to really work on some other stuff, magic-wise, and some shows that I wouldn't have had the time to develop if I was, you know, constantly had the phone, obviously. And also because everyone was at home, everyone watched, you know, people watched it a lot more. So I don't know. I feel like I would have never known what it would have been like if I wasn't in the pandemic. I only know what it is like now, and I just sort of took it, you know, took the positive out of it. Another reason why I did BGT was I watched Shimshi, who's a Las Vegas magician. Shimshi, he did AGT, and I watched his lecture, on his Penguin lecture. I'm a big fan of Shimshi, and he's someone who's also inspired me to. He's a great if you want to do corporate magic and stage shows, Shimshi will help you like get your finances up. So I watched that lecture, his Penguin lecture, and he talks about AGT, and the whole lecture is like corporate magic, because he's a big Las Vegas magician, and he talks about how you know, why AGT is good, even if it's just for the show rule. So forget about, you know, getting the phone call. You have an amazing piece of footage, broadcast quality footage. That's show reel you can use for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? For as long as you're in magic, I mean. And it's quality footage because it just says, okay, you don't, you know, it's all good going around the party and getting your at a wedding, but Simon Cowell, AGT, BGT, having that as part of your show is massive. You can immediately start improving your earnings and that footage. And so you've got to sort of think of not just the immediate calls, you've got to think of the longer term picture of how you can use that. And also, if you didn't do as well as you'd like to do, you still get the opportunity to change the narrative. Because what Shimshi talks about in that lecture is that, like, a lot of magicians are like, oh, if I do badly, if I get embarrassed. Yeah, for that one moment, you maybe you only got to the semis, for example. But after a year or two, no one's gonna remember. They don't even remember. People don't even remember who won BGT last year. People don't remember 2 years ago. But when they go on your website and they see, oh, this guy did AGT and he got to the semis, or he did AGT and all the judges said his audition piece was amazing. Yes, and you have that on your show reel. Oh wow. Bookers will immediately think, oh yeah, of course. They don't know whether or not they don't care if you won it. They just see it on your website and they're like, right, great, this guy's good. And that piece of advice from Shimshi, why he recommended it, is probably the reason why I sort of said, right, I'm going to do it this time. And yeah, it's great because now I've got that footage of broadcast quality footage, and I can show people, bookers, I don't have to worry about just, getting a camera and getting someone to film, getting permissions and, editing it and making sure the audience you've got it. BGT is there. It's done.
Perfect.
Do you know what I mean?
That's really good point, actually. Yeah, that's really, yeah, totally. Can I ask you one more question before we start to wrap this up, which is, many times throughout this interview, you've used the word we. Oh, we're putting this show on, or we decided to do this routine in the show. Do you have a team? Like, obviously, you were managed by Anthony Owen, who was an incredible person, and I'm sure responsible for a lot of your career highs. Now that Anthony's not here, do you have another manager? Do you have a team around you that's helping you now, or are you kind of going on your own now?
I've got a manager. So I have another manager called Anthony Butler from Broken Robot Productions. So he manages me now. But I have a team, but I'm not a Dynamo or a David Blaine or a Darren Brown. So I just have a team of magician friends. Like, one of my good friends is Ben Hart. So he'll consult on a lot of my stuff. In fact, you know what? Henry Box Brown, I have to give it up for Ben Hart. He's developed part of that routine with me. We did that while we were Impossible, and he helped me develop that routine for Edinburgh Fringe. I work with Harry Cruz, Pete Heat. So I kind of work with different people because we're all sort of magician friends.
Yeah.
They help sort of work on routines and stuff. So when I say we, I do use the term we a lot, but I mean sort of like just people who've kind of been on the journey with me. And
yeah.
But I don't have like, I'm not like sort of one of those guys who can hire a whole team of like specialists. I just call a mate and be like, what do you think of this routine? And we sit down and we just play around with ideas.
Well, let's be honest, Ben Hart is a nice guy to be able to have on the end of the phone that you can call. I can't think of anybody else who could be,
Yeah. Ben's he's an amazing magician. We worked on so many different things, ideas, and, just jamming and, just thinking of different things. And when he did BGT, we jammed and talked about ideas for ages. As you know, I'm sure Ben, he's a thinker and he doesn't stop thinking. So we did that for a long time. And yeah, so it's good to just jam with those kind of guys.
So one last question, which is, what's next? And what I mean by that, is there anything left on your magical bucket list that you haven't yet hit? Because, I mean, let's be honest, you have done so much. I mean, you, like I say, if you just took one little subsection of your career and went, hey, you could do this, people would be happy. Like, You achieved huge success as a breaker, and then you moved into magic. You became a successful magician. You were part of the headlining ensemble for Impossible. You then went into the Edinburgh Fringe, smashed that. Britain's Got Talent, smashed that. Everything that you've done, hit, success. Now you're doing cruises. I'm sure you've got other stuff lined up. You told me off camera, you've just gone back to the Edinburgh Fringe again.
Yeah, I'm doing Wonderville this week. I'll be at the West End at the Palace Theatre for a show called Wonderville, which is with Chris Cox. So I'll be doing a week there, which is going to be good. But right now, I'm writing a new show, which I'll be putting out next year, and then also I'm working on some. I'd love to do a film. That's the sort of the goal.
Wow, like nothing to do with magic, just a film.
No, a magic film.
A magic film. Oh, right, okay.
So I'm writing one at the moment. So yeah, just playing around with some ideas, writing a magic film. And yeah, so just doing that. That's sort of where I think I'd love to do a series. It's either going to be a series on telly, and a movie, or may just be a movie. I don't know, but that's what I like to do, because I think, like I said, I think there's a lot of stories that can be told in magic, and we're all storytellers. So best place is a film, isn't it?
Wow, I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that you have so many big ideas, and the difference between you and a lot of people is a lot of people would just go, oh, this is an idea, yeah, I'll just sit on that, and they never end up doing anything with it. You're just like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? Let's go and do it. And I think that's
it's hard. I mean, you're the same. I'm sure you read a lot of like motivational, inspirational books and people who are into that stuff, and I feel like there's only, you only get one shot a lot of the time, so just do it. Just go out and just do some of this stuff, read and just try it. And if it doesn't go according to plan, you do again, and you can try again. You can, like, to me, I don't think there's anything hard about just booking a theatre and just putting on a stage show. You can book a little 50-seater, 30-seater. You can do it in a pub. Say, just call your mates and say, sell tickets for £3 or whatever. Don't even sell tickets. Do you know what I mean? And just put some material together. If you're a close-up magician and you want to do a stage show, go to a pub and say, listen, or wherever you want to play, or a venue, a hotel, say that I want to try and do 30 minutes, a special magic show on a Thursday night. What do you think? Just put, Venom, and put a couple of pieces together that you talk about, and you can do it. I don't think there's anything that hard about it, except for what's in here, and we defeat ourselves, and I would go from there, and then you can. I do like to dream big. Because that's what excites me,
Yeah.
No one's excited about, like, I don't know, everyone's excited about when, I can see your excitement if you say, oh, you want to do a film. People get excited for big dreamers, so it's like, dream big, like, go out and achieve. Because you want to do Hammersmith Apollo, it's like, oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I want to be on that journey with you. And, if you're going to do a stage show in your local area, oh, you're going to do, oh, well, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll help you with that. Do you know what I mean? People want people to do well naturally and do exciting things. So I think we should just go out and do it,
That's the best advice that you can give anybody. It is so right. And that's one thing that I've got from this interview over and over again, which is just do it. I mean, you've achieved a lot of success. And would you say that a lot of it is down to that attitude? Just go out there and do it, and don't just sit there, but just go out there and just,
There's all the things that I've been fortunate enough, and they have been fortunate enough, is through just going out and just trying. And they say opportunity, we say luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? So you know, people say, I was lucky, you got this, and, you know, you did it. But it's like, not really. I kind of went out and bet on myself and just did some things. That's how I was able to be in Impossible, because I just said, oh, I'm going to do a show at the Underbelly. Spoke to some promoters, and it's not hard. Nothing that comes that's good is easy. It wasn't hard to get on the Underbelly and program there at the start. Was really hard, you know. It took ages, like, you know, emails, and then one booker was like, who probably would like they just needed a space or something, and she was just like flinging through emails and said, oh right, this guy just messaged me. All right, cool, and she just gave me a call. I won't say her name because we're friends now, but I reckon that's what happened anyway. And then that's how I got on the program to the Underbelly. I was trying for ages. They weren't interested. And the same thing with, I did a show called Around the World in 80 Tricks. I was sending emails out to some of these producers, production companies, and nothing was coming back. And then I got called by one of the producers for something else, and he probably just looked for an email. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, yeah. So you just got to keep going and just keep plugging away, putting yourself out there, business cards, branding yourself, and at some point, if you bet on yourself and you will get an opportunity, and you just got to grab it with both hands.
This has been incredibly inspirational and motivational. It really is, and I can see why you've achieved the level of success that you have. You are a very driven person, and it's so good to see somebody like that just grabs things by just grabs it and just says, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Yeah, I'm going to be an illusionist now. I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do. Screw it. Why not? I can do anything. That's great.
Thank you. And work with young magicians as well. I love young magicians, because I work with a magician now. His name's Luke Ozzy, and I like Uzi, Luke Osselin, sorry, because he also reminds me of like when I was younger. Like, they've just got no fear. This trick we're doing with the driving license, I was a bit nervous about doing it and trying it. Looks like, just do it. And it's like, okay, let's just do it. And you know, this is now one of my favorite pieces to do. I mean, it blows people away when they see their driving license inside that Oasis bottle. They're just like, for them, it's real magic. It's TV magic. They've never seen anything like that. You've just had your license and it's now inside a predictable. And it's like, I would have may not have done that if I wasn't around some of these, you know, these younger magicians who are a bit more like, yeah, just do it. Yeah, just take the thing, or just take the card and or just try this trick, just do it. And I love that attitude. I try and surround my people who are just like, let's go for it, man. Just do it.
They are fearless. You are right. And I've talked about this on the channel before. I've interviewed Luke on this channel. He's a great guy. He creates so much wonderful visual magic.
He's a genius. He's a little genius.
He really is. But, you know, there's so many magicians, the kind of the old school, old guard magicians that kind of go, oh, you can't, you know, who they kind of look down on the younger guys, like, oh, this is the sort of stuff that can only be done on social media or TV. Well, no, these are the guys that are like the future.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've worked with Luke. Luke helped me with some social media stuff recently. He helped me with my stage show recently. And honestly, working with them, because obviously some of us older magicians, that we've got, like you said, we've got sort of set ways we do things. This guy, you can't do that. No. It needs to be done that. And the younger guys are like, they're like, why not? Why can't you do that? They don't put themselves in a box and close ideas. And that's how great magicians in the past created, because they didn't have that closed mentality of like, you know, you can only do this and say this. And social media magic, I'm open to it now. I'm a bit old school, you know, I wasn't a fan. I'm still not a fan of some of the stuff I see personally, but I understand it now. I didn't really understand it before. You know, we used to believe there's only one platform, you know, two platforms, telly or, you know, live. And it's like, now I get it. I get what social media magic is. It's different. It's like, it's its own thing. It's not live. It's not gigging. It's like, you're not meant, it's its own separate category of magic. And it's another platform. like Zoomies, for example. So I don't know, you know, these young guys make me a bit more open-minded with stuff, and like hearing their perspective on it, I'm like, oh, do you know what? Actually, like, we should all stop slagging off some of these social media magicians, the ones that aren't exposing, because I think exposing magic is whack. I don't care if you're social. That's not what I'm talking about. The ones that like Julius Dean, you know, he's not exposing magic. You know, he's going out doing his style of prank magic, but he's not exposing, which I don't agree with that. Exposing magic for likes, but there are social media magicians who are doing really good tricks that are designed only for the camera, and I think that's pretty cool.
Luke's a perfect example, and it's another example of being humble. You know, let's be honest, you've headlined Impossible, you've been on BGT. You could very easily turn around and say, well, who's this 18-year-old kid that like thinks he knows everything? Why should I go and ask him for advice? I'm Magical Bones. Don't you know what I've achieved? I'm not going to go and speak to you. But you're like, no, I can learn something from this guy. I can learn something from this guy. And I think that sometimes magicians need to get their egos in check and need to say, well, you know, you're never going to, you know, you always need to look for help and advice, and you never know where that help and advice is going to come from.
You know, you're right. You know what? It can come from anywhere. Like Luke. I mean, Luke is a genius. Luke is honestly, that kid is a genius. I'm not just saying that. He is actually really, really clever. He's going to get a big head after he sees his interview. But he's very, very, very clever. Ben Hart. You see someone like Ben Hart, who's, you know, we've been friends for a long time. He's very, very clever, very knowledgeable in the history of magic and knows all these things. But someone like Luke, they're just as clever as each other, but in a different way. Luke is kind of like, he didn't learn, he just thought, he didn't know magicians would like read. He just kind of worked things out himself. And he's got younger ideas. So I think you can learn so much from anyone, even lay people. Sometimes I get people to say, what did you think of that routine? Honestly, tell me, what did you think? Don't just be nice. What did you think? And they'll like, oh yeah, that was good, but so, oh really? Or they might say something, and in our magic brain, we might be thinking that can't be done, or that's so stupid. But then that's how lay people think. And some of the best ideas are from people that, you know, don't think like us, you know? Mm. So I like to listen to anyone, you know. I don't think anyone's too big to be able to give drops of knowledge. And Luke just happens to be really good at it, and he's worked with quite a number of people. So book him for your social media. Not just social media, whatever. To book him, he's a good.
He consults. He will come and help you, and yeah, he's a great guy. He's a consultant as well. Like I say, if people are watching this and don't know who we're talking about, just go onto the Talk Magic playlist, type in Luke Oserlund, and his interview is there. And he was doing some magic, incredible stuff, just stuff that just completely fools me. Every time I watch him do something, I'm just like, I've got no idea. I'm a fairly knowledgeable guy. I've been around the block a while, and I just watch him and I feel like a layman. I'm like, I've got no clue.
Did you see his sugar cube thing?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I did that on my Instagram recently, and it's like, you know, we get all the credit for some of these things that these creators, and it's just done. It's so well. People were like, and when you find out how some of these things, it's like, I say to them, how did you think of that? Like, what made you think of putting that all together? And it's just like, yeah, just thought about it, and I thought that could work. He's got some really, really good tricks for social media, which is good to use as part of promotion, because social media is a big part of our businesses now, you know.
And people that aren't using social media, you don't have to be a social media magician, but that's where the audience is these days. If you want to connect with the people who potentially might book you, you need to be going out on social media and putting stuff out there.
And people understand their different platforms. Like I would do a trick like the sugar cube, or what do we do? Oh, we didn't. If you go on my Instagram, the one that's on there now is the knife through the table that Luke created that as well. People, that's just for social media. I'm not going to do that at a gig. I'm not going to do that on stage, or I might do maybe in the future, but it's just for that platform. I've got my stage show, I've got my close-up set that I do when I go out. But that's for the people who short attention spans, they're flicking through and it's like, okay, let me fling this up. I've got a trick I don't have to worry about. It might take a gazillion takes, who cares? You know? So yeah.
Exactly. Totally agree. Totally agree. And what a great way to end this interview by, you know, talking about how amazing Luke is, because he is. But I want to bring it back to you, and I want to say, seriously, Mr. Magical Bones, thank you so much for coming on the channel. Like I said, you are incredible. You are such a great performer. I know that you help a lot of young magicians. I know that you're a great ambassador for the magic community, and you love magic, and magic's in safe hands with you involved.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind. And you too as well, man. Thank you for putting this on and giving me more exposure to magicians and giving other magicians exposure and just keeping magic alive, you know? Like, this is very, very important. And hopefully you'll come up with some new effects, like your stuff, like your coin magic, your, you know, I'm a coin guy. So, you know, like I said, I had Bobo's Modern Coin Magic. So I love coin magic. I remember I used to watch some of your DVDs, clever ideas, really, really clever ideas, and it's just workers stuff, you know. So yeah, hopefully you still do close-up magic, right? Or...
Yeah, still do close-up. Yeah, still do close-up. Probably do slightly more stage than I do close-up. I still do a lot of close-up magic. Yeah, I couldn't stop. I love it. But yeah, absolutely. But yeah, talking about social media, where can people follow you? What can you drop? I'm going to put links at the bottom of the screen and in the description. So where's the best platforms for people to follow you on? Instagram?
I mainly focus on Instagram. So I'm at Magical Bones on Instagram. I'm also at Magical Bones on Twitter, at Magical Bones on Facebook. But I mainly post on Instagram, to be honest.
Okay, cool. I will. I'll put a link down at the bottom. So everybody follow Magical Bones on all of those platforms, especially Instagram, and go check out some of the stuff he does on Instagram, and then you can thank Luke for it, because
yeah, let's thank Luke.
Probably the guy behind a lot of it. But yeah, seriously, man, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I can't wait to see what else you come up with, because I know that, you know, you want a film, you want a TV show, whatever it is, I know that you're going to make it happen, because that is your attitude and that is your mindset, and it's going to be fun to carrying on watching you on your magical journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Guys, make sure you leave a comment down below. I'm sure he will see it, so leave a comment down below. Don't forget that this is going to go on the Talk Magic podcast next week, and I will be back again tomorrow with 3 videos, 1 at 2, 1 at 6, 1 at 9. Magical Bones, thank you very much. I'll see you guys again. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye, everyone.